We are so back. Hey lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Right off the bat, you guys should go check out my TikTok and my Instagram. I'm really trying to post a lot more on there, so definitely show some love. I read 9 books in the month of July, and I have 3 5-star reads I'd love to share with you. Of course, I have my coffee here already, which I probably should not be drinking because it's 10:30, but it's okay because it tastes really good. These are all the books that I read in the month of July. Again, 3 of them are 5-star reads, but we're gonna go through them one by one. Before I get started with this video, I do want to say I have all my books recorded on Fable. This video is not sponsored in any way, but I do love using the app Fable. I only have the start of my July reads in there right now because I used to have it, but I don't know what happened with my account. But all my books that I did have on there were deleted. But I just started a new one for the month of July. My username should just be Ally, but I will have it linked in the description so it's so much easier to find. Now to move back on with the video. Also, don't mind the fact that my hair is kind of straight. I had my sister's wedding last weekend, so I straightened it for that. We are actually going to start strong with the first 5-star read, which was The Perks of Being a Wallflower by chbosky. I really hope I'm not butchering that name. This book was definitely a 5-star read for me. I have heard some people that it wasn't a 5-star read. It was maybe around, I think, average maybe a 3.5 to 4, which is totally fine. Everyone has their own opinion. I absolutely love the way this book was written. It was written through Charlie's letters that were addressed to his friend, aka the reader, and I really loved that style. I thought it was really nice and a little bit different, not how usual books go. Essentially, it's about a freshman in high school, his name's Charlie, who knew that he was not normal. He was struggling with the death of his favorite aunt, and not only that, he was starting high school. He became best friends with 2 seniors, Sam and Patrick, which exposed him to a bunch of drinking and smoking. And not everyone can exactly relate to that, but it's what a bunch of teenagers do experience in high school. Charlie was very honest and deep, and you could really feel his emotions through the book, which I really liked. I thought it was a very special book because of how authentic it was. It also focused a lot on teenage depression, anxiety, coping with the loss of a loved one. It was very well written in the eyes of a 15-year-old boy. This was a truly great 5-star read. I would 100% recommend. And it's not too long either. I actually have the 20th anniversary edition, which came with an extra letter from Charlie when he was older, so that was really cool to read too. But first 5-star read down. The next book I'm going to be talking about is Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. I rated this book 4 stars. It's basically a tale about sisterhood, which really resonates with me because I do have 2 older sisters. Each sister, which you can see actually on the cover right here, they have very different views on the world and approach it in very different ways. It's about these 4 sisters right here, Avery, Bonnie, Nikki, and Lucky, who are all grieving the passing of Nikki. It truly is a powerful and very genuine story. Each sister is broken inside, trying to heal and rekindle their relationships with one another, and just learning how to trust and support each other. I really like this because it really made you feel the lives of each sister individually. It lets you live all the messy details while reading it. It did go a lot in depth into each sister's story, which I thought was really nice. It was good to see all the different perspectives and how they all came back together. This is also a somewhat short book. It's not too long, and again, it does switch between sisters' perspective, so it doesn't keep you bored because you always have a different story kind of going on. This was a pretty good book. It's good to read when you're really resonating with sisterhood, or if you want to resonate with that. This definitely captures that amazingly. Next up is Tales of Mystery and Imagination by Edgar Allan Poe. This is just a nice little classic book. I rated it 4 stars. There's not just one story in here, there are multiple different stories. Some were about 3 stars, some were about 5 stars, so I think 4 stars was a good little middle point for the whole book. I feel like the more that Edgar Allan Poe wrote, the better he got at writing. I don't know if that makes sense, but I know what I'm trying to say. It is a pretty good read for classic literature fans. I would say there were 3 main categories to the short stories. There was either like puzzling stories, there was grief about a loved one, and there were some horrific stories, I would say. I didn't know whether I was going to be creeped out or surprised or even inspired when reading this, and when I read more and more, I just was more unsure about what was going to go on next. It did keep me kind of intrigued because I didn't know what I was going to feel next, but again, just because it was a little bit kind of iffy, that's why it's a 4-star, not a 5-star. But other than that, it was a pretty good book. A little bit thicker, but it is smaller, and it does have a bunch of different stories in here, so it's easy to take breaks when reading. For being like around 400 pages, there are 22 stories in here, so lots to read on. Next up was Call Me By Your Name by Andre Ackman. Now, I have quite a few thoughts on this book. I did rate this around like a 3.25 stars. I know so many people absolutely love this book and rated this a 5-star, but for me, it just wasn't it. This is a somewhat romance book, I would say, and it's quite of a slow burner. I do want to disclaim that I'm not a romance reader at all. I don't really read romance, it's not something I reach out for, especially this kind of romance, and you'll know what I mean in a sec. The way that Andre described this 17-year-old that was madly in love with this older guy, it had a thin line between yearning and being just creepy. And I totally understand the, you know, teenage rush of falling in love, especially forbidden love, but I don't know, at times it was hard to distinguish whether I understood the teenage love or if he should be checked out by a psychologist. I will say the setting, the writing, the emotion, all the passion packed in this book was written absolutely beautifully. I really did like the intimacy between the two characters. It felt like it was, you know, genuine love. It was just a little creepy reading some of the parts from the young boy's perspective. The characters were written very good, especially, you know, the side characters like the parents and the friends. They're written very nice into the book and incorporated very nicely. The scenes felt very raw but also very real. It felt as though I was reading a diary, which I think this is kind of how it was supposed to be written as. I will say I did prefer the movie adaptation, just probably because I didn't have to read all the thoughts that the 17-year-old boy was thinking. Was a little bit scary. I would say the movie was more fitting for my book style or movie style, but other than that, I really did like the setting. It was placed in Italy. It was placed in, like, I think the 1800s. I want to say the 1800s. And again, the whole thing about the forbidden love between them, it was written very nice. All the passion packed in here, very, very nice. So if romance is really your type of book, I would 100% checking this out and seeing if it's your thing. It just wasn't 100% my thing. Doesn't mean it was bad or written bad, but it just wasn't my style of book. The next book I have never heard anyone talk about. I had no idea this book even existed until I saw it at the thrift store, but it is The Short Second Life of Bree Tanner by Stephenie Meyer. I rated this book 3.5 stars. If you don't know, Stephenie Meyer wrote the whole Twilight series, and this was just an Eclipse novella. When I saw this at the thrift store, I knew I had to grab it immediately. I will admit I am a bit of a Twilight fan, and not because like I actually like love and enjoy the movies, but just the whole vibes of it. I know it's super cringy, I know, but the whole vibes of it, I don't know, I just love watching it. It's very fall, you know, aesthetic, downtown. I love it all. But I knew I had to pick this up. I knew it wasn't essential to the series, but it was just still a nice quick read. As you can see, it's very short. The story follows Bree Tanner, which was the young girl who was transformed into a vampire to join Victoria's army to fight the Cullens. If you've ever seen the movie or read the book Eclipse, then you'll know what happens to the young girl. She does unfortunately die. This book wasn't necessary at all, but again, it was still a good little read. There were some characters that weren't necessary to the story, but Bree Tanner's had an interesting story, so I kept reading. There was a lot more violence in here than I would have imagined from a Stephenie Meyer book. It wasn't overkill or anything, but it was a little different. Again, not essential to the series, but still a little quick read. I really want to get Midnight Sun. I've already read it, but I want to get it so I can add it to my Twilight collection, which is exactly where this one's going. The next book I read was not essentially a book. I want to say I understand in no way could I rate this history being written. This was someone's life. It was a story being shown to us. It's not just simply a book that I can rate, but I will say it was definitely a 5-star. And it is The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. The way Anne Frank wrote, the way she seemed to have spoken, you can tell she was a very intellectual, very wise and smart young girl. Knowing the fact that she was only 13 and she wrote things that I could not even begin to imagine have experienced. She wrote her story through her diaries, and I think we should all be very thankful that we get to read it now. I wouldn't say this is a book for readers to essentially enjoy, but more so to gain insight of the amount of struggle people had to go through during the Holocaust. Through her diary, she gave us a view of not only her world, but so many others as well. I would think during a war, life would be completely miserable all the time, but I actually found bits and pieces of joy in this book. Little amusements that I wouldn't expect in certain situations. And so after reading this, and even during reading this, I've reconsidered how much something can really take over. It's all really about how much you let it take over. This gave me so much insight when reading it. It made me feel very sad for what happened, but again, very thankful that I'm able to learn learn about this and have the privilege of reading this. It was a terrific read, and again, I would rate it 5 stars, but I feel like this just surpassed that so much more. It really isn't too long either, so it's quite short, but I 100% recommend reading. The next book is the last 5-star book that I will be showing. I still have 2 more books after this one though, so don't worry. And it is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. The characters in this book are so well developed. Each character has a nice, clear role and why they are important in the story. It talks about race discrimination, child upbringings, justice, family, friendship, and generally how one human sees another. I loved reading the bonds between everyone, like the siblings, the kids, the families, the friendships in this book. The way Harper Lee wrote this story, it truly felt as her story was being told. Her words were real, and her story was the truth. The amount of emotion I felt when reading this book, all the sad parts and the humorous parts, it really made the book come to life, and it was just really interesting to read. It was very, very intriguing and very, very insightful when reading. This was definitely a really great read. I 100% recommend checking it out. Also quite short, so definitely go read it. Also, shout out to my Cirque du Soleil cup. This is like one of my favorite cups, and I don't know why, I just love the way it looks and the way I feel when holding it. The second to last book I will be showing you guys is Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. I'm sure many people have read this book during school maybe. I think it's a very popular book to read in school, which is very interesting because of how miserable it is. I rated this book 3.5 stars. For such a short story, like really short, it's packed with so much emotion. It tells a tale between friendship, a shattering friendship. It's filled with loneliness, sadness, the feeling of not belonging. It's just quite miserable. As much as I love reading classics, sometimes it can be hard for me to like all of them. I did like this book, I just didn't absolutely love it. The writing was nice, it was simple but effective, but I just didn't feel completely immersed in the story. It could just be me, but I felt like some characters just didn't sit perhaps right with me. I mean, overall, I did truly enjoy the book. However, some scenes felt as bit rushed to me. I did wish the story went a little bit more in depth. Even if it was a little bit longer, I wouldn't mind reading it. But again, it was still a pretty good book. Again, it's a very short book, so good little quick read. And the very last book that I read this July was Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. Now, I actually have another one of his books. I could just grab them. I have Wallflower Murders by Anthony Horowitz. I read this book and it was pretty great, and so I saw this one at the thrift store and I knew I had to get it. I want to get all of them, complete my little collection. I mean, those just look lovely together, don't they? So I rated this book 4 stars. It's sort of like a classic whodunit, but also mixed in with a little modern murder mystery, which I really liked the vibe of. I really enjoyed how there were 2 separate stories kind of running into each other in the book. It made it really intriguing and wanting to read more. There were also some visual cues that made it clear on like the separate stories. For example, the page numbers. Now, of course, you have your regular page numbers when starting a normal book. So it goes, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 100, 101, 102. But then all of a sudden, if I can find it, it goes from page 213 all the way to page 6 and 7 at the top. And so I thought that was pretty interesting when they did that. I was a little confused when reading it because it was sort of restarting, but eventually I got it. It was a pretty fun read that kind of kept me guessing towards the end of the book. Murder mysteries have always intrigued me, and I've always, I will say, loved them. They've always piqued my interest. I loved the idea of, you know, a book within a book. Thought it was really interesting, and again, pretty different than from your classic regular books. It kind of felt like a 2-in-1 type of thing. I do wish the pace was just a little bit faster, but overall it was a pretty good book to read. I completely forgot to mention, but I do have one read that I'm going in from July to August, so I'm not technically including it in my July reads, but the book is Circe. I'm really excited to finish this book. So far, it's really good and I love it. So just a little honorable mention here. Now you can go back to the video. These were all the 9 books that I read in July. I did enjoy reading all of them. I thought they were very nice to read. None of them were absolutely horrible where I had to completely put it down and DNF it or something. By the way, DNF means did not finish. But yeah, these are my July reads. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm planning on doing one of these, of course, every month, so you'll see one at the end of August. I just really want to incorporate more reading into my videos. I absolutely love reading. I have a passion for it. I really want to share all my books that I read with you guys and all my thoughts. I do want to have a disclaimer that these are all my opinion. These are just what I think of the book. Not everyone's going to have the same opinion on the book. I did enjoy reading each and every one of them. But yeah, like I said, those are my July reads. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you did enjoy it. Also, please let me know if you like kind of the setup of having my books in the background, for at least when I'm doing these kind of sit down talking videos, because I think I really like it. It definitely shows that I, have a bit of a reputation when reading. I have quite a few books, so I would like to say I have a good reputation with reading. Again, please let me know if you like these type of videos. I will 100% make more in the future. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Be sure to go check out my Instagram and TikTok. Before this video came out, I actually posted a TikTok all about my July reads, so be sure to be updated with that. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Comment down below how many books you read in the month of July, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye guys!